Ladies and gentlemen, please give a big shout out on Twitter to our technical director, William Copus. That's at W. Copus, who gave us that beautiful introduction for a show that we're not doing tonight. We're doing a show that's far superior. Of course, welcome to the R Smash Brothers AMA, brought to you by The Daily Dot. I am your host, Ian Double John Barker. I can hear our techs laughing in the background at their mistake, but we like to have a little fun on the show, so that's not a huge deal. Joining me, our esteemed guest, another very special guest for the second week in a row, or you could argue for the 28th week in a row, because they're all special, right? But this one's a little bit more special than the rest. Michael Nintendude Brancato coming to us from the Twitch offices. Michael, how are you this evening?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me on.
No problem. And after we spent 20 minutes before the show figuring out our technical difficulties, and you spent 10 minutes before the show, we're set up. We're finally ready to do the AMA and hear what the folks at home have to say. If you're not familiar with the format, or if this is your first time viewing the show, every week we give a new esteemed Smash guest to the R Smash Brothers community. The mods very graciously put up a thread for us where you put your favorite comments or questions, whatever it is you want to say to our to whoever's joining us that week. Upvote your favorites, downvote your least favorites, and then we ask them live on the show every Thursday. Michael, are you ready for what is a slew of very entertaining questions this evening?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, let's get right down to it. So coming at us first, the first question comes from Dreamcast Fan. Dreamcast Fan asks, how did it feel getting 20x'd by hacks at Pound? What do you think he and Mango do in the Fox versus Icy's matchup that other Foxes don't?
Okay, so I haven't actually gone back and watched the hack set. I just remember him pressing buttons very precisely in a way that resembled TIS, and I just remember kind of smiling because I just had to respect the show that he was putting on, because he was just playing so damn good.
Yeah, it's the most impressive thing to me about that is that you could sort of walk away with a smile on your face about it. I have to say, when you're sitting in a set like that, I have to wonder. I've only played very casual sets with my friends, but when you're actually trying to accomplish something and you run into a situation where your opponent is that on point, that on fire, how do you deal with that mentally? Is it as simple for you as just smiling and sort of going on with your with your progress towards the top?
So normally I understand totally what I have to do better. I just know there's always a solution. There's always a way to, find some counterplay to it. I'm not going to lie, in that case, I was not really totally mentally in the zone for competing because I was also running the event. You can call it T.O. Johns maybe, but I was actually already satisfied that I made it to winner's quarters, and I almost kind of mentally checked out. So I was like, okay, I'm getting styled on. That's cool. He's playing really good, and I'm not playing my best, which isn't typical of me as a competitor. With the Mango set, I was actively trying to find ways to get around what he was doing the whole set, and I wasn't able to figure it out during that set.
You could actually make the argument that getting beat by hacks and pushing him further along in his first major tournament back was better for you as a tournament organizer. Kind of adds to the drama, if you will, of your own event.
Oh, yeah, definitely made for a more exciting top 8, having him in winner's side.
So hacks 20x you, as you could say, but there are people that would argue that you create sometimes the same level of frustration through wobbling. I actually watched your set against Mango in sort of preparation for this show, and I remember any number of times that you caught him in the wobble and you started your rhythm. He just sort of sat back, and even in the beginning, he was frantically mashing his controller, and then he just sort of gave up and flicked the thumbstick. So you know what it's like to sort of inflict that sort of mental pain on your opponents.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The thing with Mango, though, or at least when you described, him mashing and then stopping, that's actually what you're supposed to do. Because in Melee, the way the grab release timer works is you press a certain number of inputs, which gets your internal, grab counter down to 0, and then at that point, if they drop the time, if they drop the timing of the wobble, you'll automatically break out, even if you're not pressing any buttons anymore. So what you saw, I wouldn't actually call that maybe frustration, but rather he did exactly what he should have done.
That's interesting, and the other part of the question from Dreamcast fan was asking, that's one example of something mechanically that you can do, but what do they do different in the Fox versus Ices matchup that made them such tough opponents at Pound?
What's interesting is I don't feel like they played the matchup particularly well, like specifically. It's more just like, at least in the Mango set, Mango just played his absolute best. Like, people haven't seen him play that good in years, and I think almost anyone who's not like top 3 in the world would meet the same fate as I did, regardless of the matchup. And in a hack set, I mean, if you're playing against a TIS Fox, you're going to lose. Doesn't matter who you are, what character you're playing, like, you're just going to lose. So I wouldn't really attribute it to like a matchup thing. It's just like my opponents are playing particularly good.
It's actually impressive that you sort of, have that mindset about things, because there's a lot of competitors out there who sort of boil it down to, I didn't do what I needed to do, in this day, in this match, in this competition. But at the end of the day, it sounds like you at least acknowledge that there's 2 people playing on that stage, and if your opponent doesn't, I don't want to say allow you to win, they're obviously never consciously letting you win, but if they don't make themselves beatable, as Sun Tzu would say, then there's little that you can actually do about that.
Yeah, I mean, I always have the utmost respect for my opponents. And I mean, of course, I can always play better and just outplay them even when they're playing amazing. These were 2 cases where I wasn't able to bring that level of play to the table.
Well, hopefully next time when you're not organizing an entire tournament, maybe you'll have a little bit less on your plate, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Our next question comes to us from Bacon Mosh. Bacon Mosh wants to know, since your name is Nintendude, I've gathered that you're a fan of Nintendo games and that you're a dude. So what are your favorite Nintendo games aside from Smash?
So I'm very much a retro gamer. I grew up with the NES, and I remember when Super Nintendo and N64 came out, my dad would take me to like garage sales, and we would see NES games lying around for like 50 cents each, and we just buy all of them, like, because they cost almost nothing. So I had this giant collection of old Nintendo games, and I grew up with like the old Mario Brothers, the old Zeldas, the old Metroids, all the classics. Like Mega Man 3 was one of my all-time favorite NES games, as well as a really obscure game called Nintendo World Cup. Shout out to people who have played Nintendo World Cup. But I'd say my favorite Nintendo franchise is definitely the Metroid series.
Did the Metroid, like into Super Metroid, and do you feel the same way about the earlier Metroids that you do about the newer ones like Prime and Echoes and stuff like that?
Well, up to a certain point. I heard that I enjoyed every Metroid game up until through Metroid Prime 3, and then I never actually played Other M. And it's actually a funny story about that. So I was killing time in a mall, and I go to a GameStop and just to kill time, and I saw they're selling Metroid Other M for like $5. So I'm like, okay, $5. I heard this game isn't very good, but for $5, I'll just get it. So I bring it to the counter, and the cashier told me, "Don't get this game. It's gonna kill your impression of the Metroid franchise." So I actually just put it back and never played
it. Wise words. Wise man knows when to listen and when not to buy a failed franchise. Did you ever end up with any sort of obscure games that turned out to be valuable? I know that there's some copies of Little Samson floating around that'll net you about $1,000 if you were lucky to score one at a garage sale.
As far as I know, my most valuable game is Bubble Bobble 2 on the NES. I don't know when I got it. I somehow acquired that in probably a random garage sale, and apparently that's worth something.
What's the game that you say you've logged the most time on? Is besides the Metroid series? Did you get into Tecmo Bowl or any of the other classics like that?
I did have Tecmo Bowl. I didn't play it that much. I played a lot of Nintendo World Cup with my brother when I was young, honestly.
I feel like I'm going to spend the rest of the evening Googling old Nintendo games because I'm on a serious nostalgia trip now, so thank you so much for that. Well, going on to our next question. This one comes from Foreskin Heretic. Welcome to the show, Foreskin Heretic. Who wants to know, you wake up one morning and a second Nintendude in a pink parka lies next to you. Following you around with Melee Nana AI, what's the first thing you do?
It's the first thing I do.
Avoid any cliffs would be my first suggestion.
I don't know. Well, I could make Nana kill herself and then return to normal, but that sounds kind of mean. That sounds like a wasted opportunity to do something actually cool. But I don't know. I don't have like a witty answer to like something cool that I would do like if I had a clone following me for a day. I have to think about that.
Here's my here's my real question for you. If killing Nana doesn't count as a stalk, does killing your clone count as murder?
Clearly no.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's pretty obvious.
Absolutely not.
You just become solo Michael and you go about your business. That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. So as long as we've got that ethical quandary figured out, I think we can move on with the show. Thank you for that question, Foreskin Heretic. This next one comes from I'm Dark J. I'm Dark J wants to know, what do you think about during a wobble?
Okay, the biggest thing I think about is actually just please don't drop this because that's embarrassing. Like it's really I actually drop it like a fair amount, usually because like when I input the final smash, like it inputs a throw I didn't mean to input or something like that. And whenever it happens, like it just really sucks. So I just really focus on not dropping it.
So, but it seems like such a routine task. There's literally nothing else going through your mind during that probably 20 or 30 seconds that you're pummeling your opponent into submission.
Yeah, not really. It's just the level of focus that, I mean, it's the same, you know, if I'm playing music, it's a similar skill, you know, keeping the tempo steady and just being focused.
Now we've heard a lot of sort of urban legends about how you perfect the wobble. To settle it for us once and for all, destroy local metas across the planet and tell us, what is the exact timing you need to do a wobble so that I can do one to our intern the next time we play Smash Brothers Melee?
Okay, well, once you initiate the alternating hits, which is just, okay, well, that part is you just press forward and A slightly, but enough that you get a forward tilt with Nana, but not so much that you do a forward throw with Popo. And normally you do that forward motion during a grab pummel with Popo. And then once you get that going, you just press A at a tempo of about 180 to 200 beats per minute. There is like a small threshold of tolerance, but that's kind of like your core tempo is 180 to 200 beats per minute.
Is there a song we could reference like I don't know, like Uptown Funk or something that would play that in your head and you've got the perfect wobble formula?
I think someone once told me that Through the Fire and Flames by Dragon Force is at that tempo, but I never used like a musical cue for learning it, so I don't have any that I like fell back on.
So you just learned it by rote, just by sort of muscle memory, understanding the tempo that way?
Yeah, just intuition. I think being a musician, I have the ability to memorize tempos.
That's cool. Do you have a musical background, or is that just something that's come up through your life sort of naturally?
Yes, very much so. I started playing piano when I was in second grade. Started playing sax when I was in fourth grade. In college, I dabbled in other things like flute and trumpet and percussion. And I played in an orchestra the past few years, which I unfortunately just left because I moved to NorCal. So I'm currently just playing piano on the side, and hopefully once I get settled in, I'll find a new musical opportunity.
Now, wait, you're in California. This is a state that prides itself on the arts and on its culture. You can't tell me there isn't a symphony with Nintendude's name on it. Can you wear your Splyce jersey under your tuxedo? I don't know what the nearest major city is, but there has to be one nearby you.
Oh, I'm sure there's something. And also, I'm living with my uncle temporarily right now, and he's actually a professional musician.
Oh, wow.
He plays violin in the San Francisco Symphony. And I'm sure maybe he can hook me up with something. But I mean, I just got here like a few days ago, and I've been swamped with work and finding a place to live and all sorts of things. So I haven't even had time to, think about those kind of side hobbies yet.
Yeah, moving is never an easy process. And fun fact, my least favorite thing in the world, I would literally rather eat vegetables than move ever again. So thank you, Austin, for being such a lovely city. Moving on to our next question. This one comes from the real Mr. Willis. The real Mr. Willis wants to know, after Five Gods, there were whispers that you and Wobbles exchanged notes on Ice Climbers. What do you usually talk about? What is your relationship with him like?
So For me, Wobbles is a big inspiration. I think that he has by far the most mastery of the character, far above anyone else who plays Ice Climbers. And he also has by far the deepest bag of tricks. So when I was talking to him, I just wanted to learn like all the random things that he's been thinking of, and just so that I can add them to my toolkit as something to maybe try to apply to my game. Now he has a lot of tricks, and they aren't all good. Some of them are actually pretty bad, but just there's ideas I haven't thought of before, and I don't really have anything to offer him in terms of like tricks because almost everything that I know I got from other Ice Climbers players. So maybe just kind of critiquing the stuff that he was showing me and maybe giving him some ideas for how to approach his opponents in the tournament.
It's funny that you say that some of his ideas are bad because for any of you out there who have ever actually spoken to Wobbles in person, the man speaks with such convincing conviction that he could tell me that Pichu was like the new S tier in the meta. And I'd be like, hey, he makes a great point. He makes an excellent point. It's also funny because you and Wobbles actually have sort of, I wouldn't say a similar, how do I put this, persona, but you're both very, very calm, sort of you appear to be very thoughtful Smash players. Is that something to do with Ices as a character, or is that just sort of circumstance?
It's hard to say. I feel like a lot of Ice Climbers players are like that. I mean, Faya Manita is like a PhD in math, and he's also a very thoughtful person. I'd say that Diz Kid Boogie is also a very thoughtful person, but in the world of music, not necessarily like academically. But then you have people like Chudat who just break the mold entirely. So, definitely not everyone follows that.
Still, I think that it has to be said that when you play Ice Climbers, you have to be a little bit more careful of your positioning where you're putting your secondary character. Do you find that it's a little bit more cerebral of a character having to take sort of two stages of this character into account, the version with the Nana and the Sopo, and then also how you interact in those different versions?
Oh yeah, definitely. I like to say that they require a lot of mental coordination. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of timings and positioning things that you don't see with any other character in the game, such as recognizing when Nana's available or when Nana is not in a lag frame, but Popo is, so you can like just initiate a desync off of that on the fly. And then knowing like how your inputs might affect both Ice Climbers differently. Like if Nana's on the ground and you're like just above her in the air and you press forward A, you'll get two different attacks with each Ice Climber. So it's just having that kind of recognition on the fly.
That sounds much more challenging than Wave Shine up airing somebody. I'm kidding. I know Fox is hard to play. I know we just see a lot of him, and it's exciting to have an Ice Climbers player on the show, all right? Just give me a break. Going to our next question. This one comes from Golosh. I believe Golosh has been on the show before, and if so, welcome back. Golosh wants to know, we all know there's a lot of hate on the Ice Climbers, mainly because of wobbling. As one of the most ruthless Ice Climbers mains, along with Chudat, who wobbles a lot when the opportunity strikes, how do you deal with your opponent's salt, and how does it affect your playstyle?
I don't think it really affects my playstyle, and I've never had salt directed towards me like physically during a set or anything. So I just until that actually happens, I'm just gonna like not care about it.
It also seems hard to direct salt at you because people act like wobbling and chain grabbing and all these other sort of insidious tools, resting, things like that. These terrible tools of the Smash Brothers Melee toolkit are somehow like malevolent. They're somehow used as an act of like aggression or disrespect, and yet sitting here, you're an extremely, friendly fellow. You've always got a smile on your face. It's hard to imagine anybody getting too upset, even as you're quickly whittling away at their health and their stocks with a pair of hammers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's really not too much different from the other things that people would get really mad about, like getting rested. It's just that there's a time period that it takes to kill them with wobbling. So like they have more time to like digest their salts and like let it like manifest. Whereas, like, if you get rested with Puff, it's like all of a sudden you're right back in the game and you got to like do something. You can't waste time. So you can't even think about being salty. You just got to like go with it.
Yeah, you only get those few invincibility frames with a little bit of time on the platform to think about how quickly you died to a giant pink puffball. Absolutely. Our next question comes to us from Kyle Crimmins. Kyle Crimmins wants to know, what was your reaction to Plup flicking the camera off after you beat him?
So I didn't actually realize that he flicked the camera off until someone told me. I just thought he was kind of like doing like this kind of like raging. So I didn't really have a reaction. I could tell he was frustrated. I don't blame him because I thought he was playing exceptionally bad and getting grabbed. He was kind of just like letting me grab him for free. Like I wasn't even like trying to. He just like came into my arms. And I was like, I take those. So yeah, I was just understanding of him being frustrated, and I mean he definitely didn't direct it towards me at all. So like I didn't feel personally like offended or anything by it.
Now, despite your sunny disposition, have you ever found yourself in a position where you sort of needed someone to, and I quote, get that fucking camera out of my face?
No, I never really felt that before. I really can't ever recall a time I got like really salty. I'll get disappointed if I lost maybe, but never really like salty.
So what's the secret to that mindset? Because I'm sure there are a lot of players out there who get frustrated either by losing to a character who's higher on the tier list, struggling to perform a certain skill, or just playing bad in a pivotal match. How do you sort of move past that mentally and keep a smile on your face, as you obviously do?
I think a lot of it is maybe I put the blame on myself. Like when I lose, I think that I made the mistakes and I just got to clean it up and play better. Yeah, and besides that, I don't know. I just think I'm just pretty good at keeping my head in the game and knowing that if I get too salty and just go on tilt the rest of the tournament, then I just won't do well.
So it sounds like your mindset is literally just, well, if I get angry, that's not going to help me, so I might as well focus on the future and what I could do better next time.
Yeah, I think maybe a contributing factor to it is I have a career outside of just being a pro. So like it's not like all my eggs are in one basket. Like if I needed to get that first place prize money to sustain myself, I think it would be different.
Gotcha.
But for me, it's like, if I do really well, it's like, oh, that's really cool. Now I have a little extra fame, some extra money, and like that's kind of a bonus on top of what I already have.
Michael, you are a rosy individual, and I respect that. Moving on to our next question. This one comes from Friendly Fun Man. I'm smiling. Friendly Fun Man wants to know, who do you think has the best Sopo in the world, and where do you think Ices are on the tier list?
Best Sopo, I think that the best one is Wobbles. I think the second best is Chew. Although honestly, I think the top Sopos of all the top Rise Commerce players are pretty close. But I think Wobbles is the most consistently good. And Ices in the tier list. I flip-flop between 7th and 8th. Like traditionally, people say Falcon's better. I think that with Wobbling, I can see Ice Climbers being better than Falcon.
You really?
Yeah.
That is surprising. But okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying to lead you into something, but I will make the path more clear.
Okay.
Why? How can Ices be better than Falco?
Oh, not Falco, Falcon.
Oh, Falcon. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
that that explains the confusion. I will totally agree with
Ices
that.
are not better than Falco.
You're about to make a lot of people very confused and very angry, and probably very sad. Either way, the question that I have as a follow-up to that, you said that a lot of the Ices are very close. Now, the real question is, what puts a player in the same echelon as you guys who are at the top of your game with Ices? What separates a great Ices player from a middle-tier Ices player, somebody who's just getting started?
I think that we have much better overall game sense and have a better handle of how to apply like kind of universal concepts in Melee to Ice Climbers. Things like tech chasing on platforms, movement, edge guarding. Ice Climbers can kind of get away with not being strong in a lot of those areas because they can just grab and then do grab stuff. But if that's all you can do, then like if someone just doesn't get grabbed, then you can't do anything.
So for you, it's more about how to either put yourself in a situation to succeed and avoid the situations that sort of put Ices in hot water.
That's one way to put it, but I just think it boils down to having this really good recognition of the situations that come up in the game, and then how to creatively handle those situations with Ice Climbers, because their moves don't always lend themselves like easily to all situations. You got to like think outside the box a little bit.
No, Nintendo, I'm trying to create a 2-word answer on how Ices can start winning tournaments. It just give me No, it's a completely legitimate answer. I can't count the number of times we've spoken to players on the show who said, there's a lot that makes a good player better than somebody else, and so much of it I can't even explain. That seems to be a recurring theme when I ask that question.
Okay.
So get good. There's the 2-word answer. Get good, and you'll be a better Ices player.
Yeah, get good.
Our next question comes from Mark of Destiny. Mark of Destiny, welcome back to the show. Mark of Destiny wants to know, Wobbles has taken the stance that Ices players should focus on developing other aspects of their play instead of just relying on the wobble. Do you think this applies to your play style? And if so, what do you think you or Ices players in general could improve upon?
I don't think it applies too much to me, in the sense that I'm not just fishing for grabs and then trying to wobble off of it. I think that when I play, I just kind of genuinely try to play neutral game in Melee, like with any other character. And if that happens to lead to a grab, and I recognize that Nana is there and able to do a wobble, then I'll just do it. So I think that just choosing to not wobble in those situations don't really do much to help me as a player. But I do think that what could help me is to experiment more in neutral and just try more random tricks. So things like trying to be like more aggressive or more proactive when players are camping me, or new edge guarding techniques that I might mess up with more often, but by practicing them, I'll have a more robust toolkit.
Now, my question to you, because you basically just described wobbling not as some, easy win button, because it certainly isn't. You have to put yourself in the right position, but an option, a part of the Ices toolkit. Do you think it's fair for people to look at you playing your character and using one of its given tools within the game as somehow unfair or bad for the game? Because it feels sort of like people are vilifying people who play Ices for doing what their character can do. And there are very few other characters that seem to get that sort of treatment.
I do think it's a little unfair, although I definitely acknowledge that wobbling is a really bad game mechanic and it shouldn't be there, and the game would be better without it. But I don't know. I don't see it as being like too much different from other things in the game. Like, it still requires like a setup, and it doesn't work in all situations. And Ice Climbers are still like at best like maybe 7th best character in the game. So like I don't see how you can vilify someone for playing the 7th best character in the game, honestly.
People could make that argument about Hungrybox too. He seems to be taking a character that is not very good and doing great things with it. But I mean, should he be punished for that? That's a debate for Reddit to have. Our next question, and this one is probably actually my favorite, comes from Blue Soup 10. Blue Soup 10 wants to know, are you are you ever tempted to look dead into the eyes of your opponent while wobbling them?
Usually no, because I'm afraid I'm gonna like laugh and then mess up. And as I said before, messing up a wobble is embarrassing, and I don't want to do that. But like, yeah, sometimes I'll try to have fun with it. Like, I remember this one time I was playing Daryl, the Samus player, in tournament, and he was like giving me a death stare as I was wobbling him, so I just gave him one back, and then he smiled, and I didn't drop it. So yeah, there were things like that. But I find like, I'll be at Xanadu. And like I'll start wobbling someone, and the commentators will like make some joke, or they'll like look at me, and I'll start smiling and laughing because they're saying something funny, and then I'll just like drop it because like I lose my concentration.
Well, if you do it in a tournament, please make sure it's on camera so at least we get a good Jiffy cat out of it.
Okay.
That's a GIF that will live in infamy, I do say. Our next question. Go ahead.
I once heard that Chudat was practicing wobbling with one hand so he can Chudat pose while wobbling someone.
That's some secret tech, man. You can't give away. I mean, that's like letting the Manhattan Project out of the bag. That's some nuclear level tech right there. I hope we get to see that.
I've never seen him actually do it, but Chillin said he was once trying to practice it. I mean, it's really hard. You got to switch to one hand and press this. I don't stick with the pinky while pressing like A with the thumb. So I don't think he'll ever like try to do it in a serious situation. But if I could do something like that, it'd be really funny.
I don't think human beings as a species are ready for that sort of technology. We'll have to leave that to our robot overlords. Our next question comes from Salsa Man 69. Salsa Man 69 wants to know, do you think that if wobbling were more aesthetically pleasing to watch, meaning that it looked cooler or more interactive, that it would be hated less? Viewers love Wobbles and his handoffs and setups, so it doesn't just seem to be an infinite thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely. People like watching Flashy play. That's what makes Melee a spectator's game in many ways.
So is the obvious solution then is to sort of Michael Bay it, and every time the hammer hits, just have an explosion of some kind, or like, and then when you finally hit them, of course, there's a giant explosion, and then that to me, I joked at first, and now that I'm like thinking about it, that would be pretty entertaining.
Oh, I don't think it's about the visual. The way it looks visually is just
I disagree.
Yeah, I think it's just, I don't know, maybe to like a lot of the newer viewers, like they just want to see stuff that looks like visually flashy and stuff. But I think for a lot of people, it's just about like the sequence of moves used and like the tight timings and tight execution. I think that's what makes stuff exciting for them.
We just need to give every character a shine.
Yeah, imagine Ice a shine. Then they can double shine by pressing shine once.
You speak heresy, my friend. Moving on to our next question. This one comes from Foxy Danger. Foxy Danger wants to know, and this is a bit of a long one, so sit back and grab some hot cocoa. With the recent airing of Last Stock Legends Ken versus Bomb Soldier, I was surprised to hear Ken got so much animosity for a chain grab. Now it's completely normal/expected to see Marths, Sheiks, Peaches, and Foxes strike to FD to get 40% off a grab. Do you think wobbling will ever get to the point where it's accepted as part of the game without the drama that comes with it, or is a guaranteed kill off a grab just in a different league when it comes to punishes?
I think it already is like pretty well accepted by everyone. Well, but when I say everyone, I mean like the community of top players and a lot of I guess the older Melee community. I almost feel like it's like the new age of players that hates it so much. And yeah, in a way, it's not too much different from like zero deathing someone on FD, except it's way easier once you actually get the grab.
Do you think there's maybe a little bit of a hive mind mentality at work? I mean, it's easy for players once something is decided as not good for the game, or a character is bad, or something is OP, for people to sort of pile on, and then that mentality sort of takes on a life of its own. Is that a symptom? You talk about the new generation of Smash players thinking that way. Is that sort of a symptom of the Smash community moving online, where that sort of mass discussion can take place?
Maybe to an extent, but I do think this very like objectively just kind of looks stupid. So like, I don't think it's too much of a hive mind thing. But I'm sure Twitch chat perpetuates some of the stigma against it.
Well, until people boo it actively. Wait, have people booed that at an Evo? That seems like something they would boo at Evo.
Actually, at Evo, people cheer for it. The FGC really likes wobbling. They think it's hype.
The FGC has a different mentality about the game. I remember people like Justin Wong coming out and saying when Armada and Hungrybox had the famous ledge camping incident, or as I like to call it, Campgate. There was a lot of people out there in the FGC who said, "I don't see the problem," you know. So I mean, maybe that's part of the equation, is that Smash players just prefer a game that's a little bit faster and more energetic and a little bit more high paced.
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, I don't have like too many other, I guess, situations to draw off of for that. Yeah, FGC seems to like it.
They like a lot of things. We can say that for sure. Our next question comes from Tropius2. Tropius2, welcome back to the show. Tropius2 wants to know, what are some of the innovations that you specifically did for the Ices? We hear all about the wobbles stuff, but what are the tricks that you came up with?
Okay, I think that I'm one of the only, actually, I think I am the only Ice Commerce player to use like the forward tilt desync all the time. That's the one where you do it, you just like turn and forward tilt at the same time, and then you can get a desync right off of that. A lot of other things I do, I would say, are more like refinements of stuff that other Ice Climbers players do. And for like specific examples, I think one thing That I do more than other Ice Climbers players is tech chase on platforms with forward air to try to get them to pop up and then get a grab off of that. And I also use falling up airs way more than any other Ice Climbers player. Actually, I don't see any other Ice Climbers player use falling up airs.
So that's your tech specifically. I'd like to talk to somebody who obviously knows quite a bit about ices, about Nana's behavior, because there's a lot of stuff out there about Nana tech and how Nana works and Nana's AI and stuff like that. Are there some concrete rules that you could tell those of us who are less involved in the Ice Climbers world that you could sort of understand why Nana does what she does when she does it?
Okay, well, I think the biggest rule people should know is that she always will jump at stage height when she's recovering. She always jumps in exactly the same spot on every stage. And then the other one, which is important for handoffs, is if Nana grabs you and you're near an edge, she'll throw towards the edge. And that's why the handoff works, is she always throws the same direction. But if she grabs you and you're not near an edge, it'll be a random direction. Which is why you don't see handoffs just being totally guaranteed in the middle of the stage.
That seems like a bizarre decision from a game design standpoint. If she always jumps at stage height, that's sort of putting her in a predictable place and makes her, easier to edge guard. Obviously the computer's not thinking that hard about how it's getting back on the stage, but it seems like it sort of programs some sort of deficiencies in when you've got both Nana and Popo on the stage at the same time. How do you overcome that?
Just don't let Nana get in the situation. You said like it's predictable, and yeah, it is predictable, and that's why the players who are really good at killing Nana can do it every time because they just know exactly when she'll jump and then hit her right after she jumps. When I play people who are really good at the matchup, I just accept when Nana's going to die because they know how to cover it. So I just try not to let her get separated.
Well, there you go. Just do the best. Just do the best you can, guys. Just do the best you can. Our next question comes to us from Frapple Apple. Frapple Apple wants to know. So Infinite Numbers just beat MacD at Pound, but Hex beat you, arguably the best Ices main in the world, fairly convincingly. Would I be right in saying Ices mains are figuring out the Peach matchup, but Fox mains are evolving to the Ices matchup? Is Fox a harder matchup than Peach, or are Fox players just generally more skilled than Peach players?
Okay, there's a lot of parts to that question.
Yep.
All right, so Peach versus Fox, I think that Peach is harder because Peach doesn't really have to necessarily do anything. She can just play really patiently, and as long as she doesn't slip up, she can win. Whereas Fox actually has to like make moves and be proactive, and then like have good tech skill. Because if you mess up tech skill, you're gonna get grabbed and die. As for Infinite Numbers run, oh yeah, another part of the question was, are ICs figure out the Peach matchup better? I wouldn't attribute Infinite Numbers winning as like a general indicator that ICs are figuring out the Peach matchup better. I actually think you got kind of a lucky bracket in a way. Like, well, actually, I don't know. Well, with MacD, I know MacD had other things in his mind that maybe made him not mentally quite as sharp as he would normally be. So that could have maybe been different had that not been the case. And I didn't actually watch his sets versus the Foxes, so because they weren't streamed, because he didn't want to be streamed. And in case anyone's wondering, that's why like he barely got any airtime. Was we tried to get him on stream, and he was just like, "No, I don't want to." And since it wasn't deep in bracket, we just were like, "Okay, that's fine."
So what are you gonna do if he makes it to a grand final? Just not broadcast?
Oh, he's forced to play. I mean, when he got to winners quarters, like we forced him to play on stream. Like you can't be winners quarters and not play. I think I missed some parts of that question. What did I cover?
Let me take a look. There was the. Would you be right in saying that Ices mains are figuring out the Peach matchup? The other part was, are Fox mains evolving to the Ices matchup?
Oh, that not necessarily. I think that the same Foxes who have been good at the Ices matchup have always been good at the Ices matchup, and the other Foxes who are now beating Ice Climbers are just playing better, but aren't playing the matchup better necessarily. Like in Hax's case.
The other part of the question was, are Fox players just generally more skilled than Peach players?
Yes, definitely. I mean, just look at like the the Melidami rankings. You have two Peaches in the top 20 and like I don't know, something like 7 Foxes, maybe more. Like there's just more good Fox players.
Now, there are people out there that would argue that that's because of the character, not because of the player. What do you say to that?
Well, I think part of it is that the character's good, but another part of it is that the character's fun to play. I think more people find Fox fun to play than find Peach fun to play. So if you have more people playing a character, like naturally more of those players you'll have more good players of that character.
Well, that's fair. Well, then it sounds like the puzzle is just as perplexing as ever.
Yeah.
And it has to be said, is part of the problem that people are taking a little bit too much from a single victory to sort of make a sweeping decision about how the meta is changing, because it feels like in a lot of these situations, it's just a matter of player X got better. He practiced, or he or she practiced and got better, and that made the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I think people are reading way too much into the Hack set. I don't think that Hax played the matchup particularly good. He was just technically playing extremely good, like almost TAS-like. And actually, people forget that Hax lost the game to Chu like the same tournament, and I'm a better player than Chu. So I mean, take that for what you will. But I think it was just Hax just really turned it on versus me. And if he played the same way versus Chu, then I mean that would have been destruction as well.
Yeah, it's pretty tough when a player goes on a tear like that. Our next question comes to us from Mini Muse, and Mini Muse wants to know, here's where we get personal. Fuck, marry, kill, Wobbles, Chudat, and infinite numbers.
Okay. I'd marry Wobbles, fuck Chu, and since I don't know anything about infinite numbers, like, kill him because it won't affect my life at all. I mean, man, it's kind of mean, but... He's just kind of a non-factor in my life right now.
You just like infinite numbers is going to find this VODs at some point and just be heartbroken.
give it a few more tournaments, maybe that'll change. But
there you go.
I barely know a thing about the guy.
There you go. No, that's a challenge to you, infinite numbers. Become a part of Nintendude's life, and maybe you'll get to fuck or marry him. Our next question comes to us from Tactician Mark. Tactician Marks wants to know: are you still going to money match Hugs?
I feel like a lot of the hype around that got so diluted because it got canceled, and then we played some best of threes at like Xanadu, where I did lose. I still think that I've lost the game by money matching him in like a best of 5 on a big stage, but I don't know if the community cares anymore.
Hype seems to go on a parabola, right? It's like a rocket. You shoot it up into the air and it sort of peaks, but eventually it comes crashing back down to earth if nothing else applies a force to it. By the way, folks, we've got probably about 10 minutes left in this show, and we've only got one question left from the AMA. We actually wanted to put out a call to you guys in the chat. If you have anything you want to ask Nintendude, please let us know in the chat. Our technical director will grab those, and I will pass them on to our good friend, the Icy's main here. Our last question comes to us from Tally Zora. Tally Zora wants to know, as a TO responsible for great tournaments and as a player, what is your position on the amount of huge tournaments nowadays? How would you reorganize the Melee season so that players don't have so many majors to attend all throughout the year?
I feel like there needs to be some kind of tiering system for tournaments. Like if there's a clear class of tournaments that are super majors that have their own value combined if they go to all of them, and then you have a second class of tournaments that are slightly lower with maybe a lower overall impact for doing well at them, then players know okay, I can prioritize these super majors, and then maybe I have some extra time and effort, so I'll go to a couple of these second class tournaments.
Now, the question for me, as speaking to you as somebody who organizes tournaments, what do you think is the biggest challenge to improving tournaments? Because we've seen the majors run exceptionally well, and obviously everybody wants progress even when things are at a great point. What is the thing that tournament organizers can do to improve their tournaments going forward in 2016?
I'd say number one thing right now is production value. So I feel like in the past couple of years, we've really nailed down a formula that works in terms of the logistics, how to divide up players in the pools and schedule them without player conflicts and all that. That's been done so many times now. That's just a formula. But like the stage presence, the stream presence, like Genesis had a theater, that was a big step forward, I think. But we can go even farther than that. We can have better camera systems. We can have like theme songs. We can have better lighting. There's all sorts of things you can do. And I mean, that's not my area of expertise, but there's just so many possibilities. So production value, try to think of some ways to make tournaments more epic.
I'm trying to picture somebody coming out and doing an entrance a la K-Brad from CEO last year. That would be pretty epic.
Actually, yeah, CEO is like some pretty good ideas for production. That boxing ring thing is really cool. And I haven't actually been to a CEO, but I'm probably going to go this year, so I'll get to see it finally in person.
Excellent. Well, we hopefully we might get to send a person there or two. Nothing in the books, but it's obviously such an important and fun event to go to. The folks down in Florida do an amazing job. Coming at you with our first chat question, Luna. Luna, how you doing? Luna, welcome to the show. Luna wants to know what do you do at Twitch now?
Okay, I'm in league operations and esports, and I am currently managing logistics for the Rocket League Championship Series.
Rocket League. Are you personally a Rocket League player?
I wasn't until recently. I mean, I played it casually time to time, but now I've been playing a little more often and getting into it, maybe watching some streams. I think it's a really fun game.
Nice.
And it's a really funny game, too, I think. I just love how, like, you score a goal and then like the ball blows up and the cars go flying backwards. It just looks really funny.
It is. It's hard to take it. I don't want to say not take it seriously, because obviously there are people that do incredible things in it. But at no point do you get salty. I find when I get scored on, because I get to do a bunch of backflips while I'm flying backwards from my goal.
Yeah.
Our next question comes from Black Magic 74754, who wants to know: were you sober when you lost to Germ at Foundry?
I actually was. I had some shots right afterwards. Yeah, I don't know. He just beat me. I wasn't wobbling him because I don't like wobbling, and I just don't like to do it unless there's a lot in the line, for whatever reason. But yeah, I don't know. He's like the OG Link player, and he's a really cool guy. I know she's like losing to him, and I think that that was a really good match, actually. Like, just it ended with one of those Dragon Ball Z moments where we both hit each other and flying opposite directions, and I died first. And it was really fun.
Those are the best situations as far as I'm concerned. Our next one comes through from Chic, who wants to know: are you going to Shine 2016?
I'm not sure yet. I have so much travel on my schedule, and I don't know what I'm doing in August yet.
Well, there you go. I'm sure it's hard to plan your year that far out when you've got so many other things going on the calendar. Next one comes to us from Dreamcast Fan, who asked a question earlier in the broadcast. Dreamcast Fan, thank you so much. Wants to know what do you think of the Smash or of the summit and the players who got in this year?
I think a summit's a really awesome idea. It's a really great way to showcase Smash to more people and to learn more about the players who play. In terms of players who got invited, I guess the only controversial person would be Esam, I think. And I think that that's really cool, actually. I think Esam is my second favorite Samus player behind Plup. I think that he does a lot of things that other Samuses don't do, such as short hop fastball missile cancel and various missile tricks on different stages. And I think that it's a really good opportunity for the Melee community to learn more about Samus by watching Esam play.
Nice. I think that's a perspective on it we haven't heard much of since the votes went down, so I'm glad to hear a more positive take on it. Next one comes from the Pig Boy. We got time for a couple more. The Pig Boy asks: you said you might use a secondary for Hungry Box from now on. What did you have in mind?
I don't want to say yet, but I was going to say it's not Fox. I think that there's other high tier characters with very underdeveloped matchups versus Puff, and if they played the matchups correctly and developed more, they would beat Puff pretty solidly. And I'd like to, in some of my spare time, just try to develop that further with another character, and then maybe try it out for Hungry Box in the future.
Well, we look forward to seeing your Yoshi when you match up with him next. Last question for the evening. This one comes from Pudgy Panda Plays. Pudgy Panda Plays wants to know: how do you deal with a camping Puff or any other character? It seems like Ices have no options in those situations.
It's pretty tough. So thankfully, the only player who's good enough at doing that is Hungrybox, which I guess kind of goes back to why I'm thinking of trying a secondary character versus him, because when he does his camping strategy perfectly, I actually feel like I can't do anything. Or I got to get a lead and then just like run away and hope that he doesn't like regain the lead. But I feel like if I'm trying to win by timeout, like that's not a viable long-term strategy. So first, anyone who's not Hungrybox, you just play patiently and just don't overcommit. Eventually, there'll be an opportunity. I've never seen someone wait a full 8 minutes for an opportunity. Someone always gets impatient before the 8 minutes is up. Actually, they usually get impatient after 1 minute, and then something happens. So just wait.
Well, there you go, folks. Play patient, and you too could beat Hungrybox. Michael, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. It's been a joy to hear the other side of the perspective when it comes to ICES and tech, and especially your experience in tournament organization. Any shout-outs, anything you'd like to say before we close up shop for the night?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, shout outs to Splyce, my sponsor. They take really good care of me. Shout outs to MDVA. Sorry for leaving you guys. Shout outs to Twitch. Thank you for hiring me. Shout outs to all my fans, all the Ice Commerce players out there. Shout outs to Cornell Smash. And yeah, shout outs to my friends and family.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Nintendude. We definitely enjoyed our time with you. We hope to see you again soon. Yeah, and that's going to do it for us tonight. That is the whole show. Sadly, folks, we can only last an hour before it's time to before the carriage turns into a pumpkin. I already fucked the joke up. Whatever. Anyway, if you like the show, go ahead and hit that follow button down below the video, or if you want to subscribe and get access to our exclusive Twitch chat emotes, .fire and .fan, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. We really appreciate your support. If you want to catch the VOD after the fact, or maybe even share it with your friends, go ahead and check us out over on youtube.com/daily.esports. For more of our esports coverage, check out facebook.com/daily.esports. And then, of course, hit us up on Twitter @esports. And that's, I believe, is all of the whole smattering of social channels, and you'll get the full daily dot picture. That's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the R Smash Brothers and AMA, brought to you by the Daily Dot. We'll see you next time.